The story begins with Agamemnon, king of Mycenae, having united most of Greece's kingdoms and now leading his army toward Thessaly. King Triopas negotiates with Agamemnon to settle the conflict through a duel between their best fighters, instead of a full-scale battle. Confident in his choice, Triopas calls upon the giant Boagrius, while Agamemnon selects Achilles. However, Achilles is not with the army, and a boy is sent to find him. Achilles, who lives for battle but refuses to align with Agamemnon, prefers to carve his own path to immortality. Achilles easily defeats Boagrius, securing Agamemnon's dominance over Thessaly. Triopas asks Achilles to present the scepter to Agamemnon, but Achilles refuses, stating Agamemnon is not his king. Meanwhile, Princes Hector and Paris of Troy are guests at a feast hosted by King Menelaus of Sparta, where Paris sneaks away to be with Menelaus' wife, Helen, whom he loves. He persuades her to leave with him and secretly takes her aboard his brother's ship. When Hector learns of this, he is furious, but it's too late to go back and seek forgiveness. Upon discovering Helen's disappearance, Menelaus swears revenge on Troy and seeks the support of his brother Agamemnon, who eagerly agrees, driven by his own desire to sack Troy. Odysseus, the king of Ithaca and servant of Agamemnon, is tasked with convincing Achilles to join the conquest of Troy. He finds Achilles practicing with his young cousin, Patroclus, who is eager to fight. Achilles seeks counsel from his mother, the sea nymph Thetis, who tells him that staying home will allow him to marry, raise a family, and live a long, peaceful life. However, if he goes to Troy, he will achieve eternal glory, his name remembered for centuries, but he will die and never return. Meanwhile, Hector and Paris meet with their father, King Priam, who greets Helen and praises her beauty. Hector is reunited with his wife, Andromache, and their infant son. Achilles decides to join Agamemnon's campaign against Troy, bringing along his own warriors, the Myrmidons, led by Eudorus. Patroclus accompanies them. The Myrmidons prove to be superior rowers, reaching the shores of Troy before the other Greek forces. They quickly take the beach and sack the temple of Apollo, where Briseis, a priestess and cousin to Hector and Paris, is captured. Hector leads a counteroffensive to hold back the Greeks, and in a confrontation inside the temple, Achilles refuses to fight him. Achilles explains that their battle should take place before an audience, allowing Hector to leave unharmed. Agamemnon claims Briseis as his war prize, which enrages Achilles. He threatens to fight for her, but Briseis intervenes to stop him. Priam consults his war council, and Paris offers to fight Menelaus in a one-on-one duel to prevent further bloodshed. Priam gives him the sword of Troy. Meanwhile, Hector finds Helen attempting to leave the city, fearing many will die because of her. Hector persuades her that with Agamemnon involved, the conflict is no longer just about her. The next day, Agamemnon marches toward Troy, but Achilles, still furious over Briseis, stays behind at camp. Paris and Menelaus face off in a duel, but Agamemnon makes it clear that he will attack Troy regardless of the outcome. Paris is wounded and crawls back to Hector, who defends him and kills Menelaus. Agamemnon launches an attack, but Troy successfully repels his forces, forcing Agamemnon to retreat under heavy pressure. Achilles rescues Briseis from Agamemnon's troops, and with her consent, they are intimate. He decides to return to Greece, devastating Patroclus, who had hoped to fight in the battle. Hector advises his father that the Greeks have underestimated Troy's strength and that they should avoid making the same mistake. However, General Glaucus wants to launch a preemptive strike, and High Priest Archaeptolemus believes the gods favor Troy, citing omens. Despite Hector's counsel to stay behind their walls, Priam listens to his advisors and orders an attack before dawn. At dawn, the Trojan army, led by Hector, launches an assault on the Greek camp. Suddenly, Achilles appears in his armor and rallies the Greek troops. He fights his way toward Hector, and the two engage in a fierce duel. Hector lands a swift sword thrust to Achilles' throat, causing him to fall, gasping for air, while the Myrmidons watch in shock. However, when Hector removes Achilles' helmet, he discovers that it is actually Patroclus. Hector addresses Odysseus and tells him they have fought enough for the day. Before leaving, Odysseus informs Hector that Patroclus was Achilles' cousin. The Myrmidons return to camp, where Achilles emerges from his tent. Seeing their battle-worn state, he questions why they disobeyed him. Eudorus reveals that Patroclus had disguised himself in Achilles' armor, mimicking his movements, and was killed by Hector. Furious, Achilles attacks Eudorus. He then places Patroclus' body on a funeral pyre and sets it ablaze. Agamemnon watches the scene and comments, "That boy may have just saved the war for us," knowing that Achilles' rage will not subside until he avenges Patroclus. Meanwhile, Helen observes Paris practicing his archery, hitting his target with precision as he prepares for battle. The next morning, Achilles sets out to seek revenge on Hector. Briseis pleads with him not to go, but he ignores her. He rides to the gates of Troy and calls for Hector, who prepares for battle and says farewell to his wife. Hector faces Achilles alone outside the city. Achilles throws down his helmet so Hector can see his face, and they begin to fight while Priam and Paris watch. Helen comforts Andromache, who can't bring herself to watch. Achilles defeats Hector by driving his spear into his chest. That night, Achilles is visited by a cloaked stranger who kisses his hand before revealing himself as King Priam. Having secretly entered the Greek camp, Priam pleads for the return of his son's body for a proper burial. He tells Achilles that although Hector killed his cousin, he didn't know who it was, and asks Achilles how many brothers and cousins he's killed in his lifetime. Despite being enemies, Priam requests respect for the dead. Achilles softens and weeps over Hector's body, vowing to meet him in the afterlife, before handing his body over to Priam. When Briseis approaches, Achilles allows her to return home and apologizes for the pain he caused her. He promises Priam that the Greeks will not attack Troy for 12 days to allow for mourning. When Agamemnon learns of Achilles' secret agreement with Priam, he becomes enraged. However, Odysseus, noticing a sculpture of a horse made by a soldier for his son, suggests a plan to turn the 12 days of mourning to their advantage. After the mourning period ends, the Trojans find the beach deserted, with several bodies scattered across the sand. The bodies seem to have been claimed by disease, and where the heart of the Greek camp once stood, a massive wooden horse has been placed. Priam is told that the horse is a gift to the god Poseidon and is encouraged to bring it into Troy. Although Paris is suspicious and suggests they burn the horse, Priam decides to bring it inside the city, where it is seen as a symbol of the war's end. Meanwhile, a Trojan scout, while hiking through the cliffs outside the city, stumbles upon a hidden cove where the Greek fleet is concealed. Before he can warn Troy, he is shot by an arrow and killed. As the city of Troy celebrates late into the night, the festivities eventually quiet down. Once all is still, the wooden horse opens and Achilles, Odysseus, and a group of Greek soldiers emerge. They open the gates of Troy, allowing the rest of the Greek army to pour in. The Greeks quickly overrun the city, looting, burning homes, and killing any Trojans who resist, while a sorrowful Priam can only watch helplessly. Trojans attempt to defend the royal palace, but are unsuccessful. As Priam prays before the statue of Apollo, asking why he has been abandoned, Agamemnon sneaks up behind him and stabs him in the back. Meanwhile, Achilles searches the city for Briseis. Paris and Andromache lead the surviving civilians to a secret passage, where Paris hands the sword of Troy to a young boy named Aeneas, a future progenitor of the Romans. He recites his father's words to him before returning to the battle with his bow and arrows to continue the fight. Briseis is praying before a statue of Apollo when Agamemnon grabs her from behind. Achilles sees this and rushes to her aid. Agamemnon declares his intention to take Briseis back to Greece as his slave, but she secretly pulls out a knife and fatally stabs him in the neck. His guards attempt to subdue her, but Achilles kills them. As he helps Briseis to her feet, Paris appears and shoots an arrow through Achilles' heel. Despite Briseis' desperate cries, Achilles stands to face Paris, only to be struck again with an arrow to the chest. He pulls out the first arrow, only to be shot multiple times. Ultimately, Achilles collapses, telling Briseis that she was his piece in a life of endless war and urging her to escape. Briseis goes with Paris, and they flee as the Greeks arrive at the palace to find Achilles dead, seemingly from a single shot to his heel, which cements the myth surrounding his death. The next day, Achilles' body is honorably burned on a funeral pyre in the ruins of Troy. Odysseus watches the ceremony and reflects, saying, "If they ever tell my story, let them say I walked with giants." Men rise and fall like the winter wheat, but these names will never die. Let them say I lived in the time of Hector, tamer of horses. Let them say I lived in the time of Achilles. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy to hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure. It would be best if you watched the whole movie. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this.